Hey guys, we'll see about human herpes virus in this video. Herpes viridae is a large family of DNA virus that cause infections and certain diseases in animals including humans. The members of this family are also known as herpes viruses. The group of viruses which causes infection in human, they are called as human herpes virus. And there are 8 classification of HHV. HHV 1 and 2, they bear the name herpes simplex virus 1 and 2 respectively. HHV3 is also called as varicella zoster virus, 4 is Epstein-Barr virus, and 5 is cytomegalovirus. Then we have human herpes virus 6 and 7, which bear the same name HHV6 and 7. Then lastly, we have HHV8, which is also known as Kaposi sarcoma associated herpes virus. Now let's see individual herpes virus. First one is herpes simplex. Herpes simplex is a viral infection caused by the group of herpes simplex virus, which includes both HSV1 and HSV2. So, infections are categorized based on the part of the body infected. So, we have oral herpes and genital herpes. So, oral herpes involves the face or mouth and it may result in small blisters in groups, often called as cold sores or fever blister, or may just cause a sore throat. Whereas genital herpes, or simply known as herpes, they have minimal symptoms and form blisters that break open and result in small ulcers. These typically heal over 2 to 4 weeks. So those two viruses HSV1 and 2, HSV1 is more commonly associated with infections around the mouth and HSV2 is more common in the genital region. So how you can group the HSV1 and 2 is almost all the majority of the infections caused by herpes simplex above the waist they are caused by HSV1, whereas below the waist it is HSV2. So the most commonest infections caused by HSV1 includes acute gingival stomatitis, herpes labialis, keratoconjunctivitis and encephalitis. HSV2 we have herpes genitalis, then neonatal herpes which is caused from the mother to the child, it is transmitted, and then we have aseptic meningitis. These are some of the important infections or more frequently asked in MCQs. They include the herpetic gingivostomatitis, herpes labialis, herpes genitalis, and herpetic whitlow. So first one, herpetic gingivostomatitis. It is the initial presentation during the first herpes infection. It is of greater severity than the herpes labialis and it leads to other subsequent presentation. Then we have herpes labialis. It is commonly referred to as cold sores or fever blisters. It is the most commonest presentation of the recurrent HSV infection. So initial, it will present as gingivostomatitis. When we have a recurrent HSV, the commonest one is herpes labialis. And the infection usually revolves around the region where the trigeminal nerve supplies. So trigeminal nerve, we have ophthalmic, maxillary and mandibular. The areas and regions wherever this nerve is supplied, there alone all the recurrent HSV infection occurs, of which the area supplied by the maxillary nerve or the mandibular nerve, which leads to herpes labialis. Then we have herpes genitalis. So when it is symptomatic, the typical manifestation is a genital infection which includes a cluster of inflamed papules and vesicles on the outer surface of the genitals resembling a cold sore. Then we have an interesting lesion which is called as herpes gladiatorum or herpetic whitlow. Herpetic whitlow is an infection which happens in the finger and it usually occurs because of transmission from some other primary area into the finger through contact. Usually it occurs in earlier it used to occur in dentists when they never used to wear glove while practicing. So that is how the transmission of herpetic whitlow, though the frequency and the occurrence of it has gradually reduced. Then we have herpes gladiatorum, which is also known as the sports herpes or contact herpes. It typically occurs in people who participate in contact sports like wrestling, rugby, or football, and they acquire infection from one person to the other. And symptoms include fever, headache, sore throat, swollen glands, and it occasionally affects the eyes and eyelids as well. These are the four commonest herpes related lesion which are asked in MCQs. Then we have the next group of lesion called chickenpox. So chicken pox, also known as varicella, is a contagious infection caused by varicella zoster virus, which is nothing but the human herpes virus 3. Varicella has an incubation period of 10 to 21 days, and it usually presents as rash, spots, blisters, and finally, it might even lead to clouding. Healing will take 10 days and the crust will fall off on their own. Then we have something called as the recurrence infection of chickenpox. So, when a person is infected with varicella zoster herpes virus, initial infection during the childhood it causes chickenpox. Then slowly the virus will move to a dorsal root ganglion. It could be whichever nerve root, but it will rest in the dorsal root ganglion, and that is called as a latent period. And the person will remain latent throughout their life. It need not be necessary that there may be reinfection. It might remain latent throughout. Then later on in adulthood, when the immune system is depressed or any triggering factor like stress will cause reactivation of the virus, and that will lead to a condition called as shingles. So shingles or zoster, simply a zoster or shingle, it is a viral infection that results from a reinfection of a varicella zoster virus. So remember, the primary infection is chickenpox. The reinfection of chickenpox or the reinfection of a varicella zoster virus is called as shingles or zoster. So it typically affects a single sensory nerve ganglion wherever the virus was resting in the dorsal root. From there, it spreads and it affects only the area supplied by that particular nerve which has been affected, and the skin surfaces which are affected by the nerve. So shingles causes a rash which is unilateral and appears on one side of the chest and back, or sometimes on the face as well. Then we have something called as a post-herpetic neuralgia, which is a complication of the shingles. So once a patient has a reinfection of varicella zoster virus, the patient will end up with shingles. After the shingles rashes disappear, the patient will have a very painful condition around the area where the nerve is being supplied. And that complication is called as post-herpetic neuralgia. That is, after a reinfection of a herpetic varicella virus, the patient will end up with a severe pain which is called as post-herpetic neuralgia. Then we have the next virus called as Epstein-Barr virus. So Epstein-Barr virus is the human herpes virus 4, and it is one of the most common virus in human. It is a double-stranded DNA virus, and it is responsible for causing the infectious mononucleosis, or the other names for it is glandular fever. So infectious mononucleosis, also known as glandular fever, it is caused by Epstein-Barr virus, and apart from that, it is also caused by cytomegalovirus, which we'll see little later. So most people, they are infected by the virus. The group comprises of children, and the disease produces only very few or no symptoms. In young adults, the disease results in fever, sore throat, enlarged lymph nodes of the neck, and fatigue. So infectious mononucleosis central, it causes fatigue, malaise and loss of appetite, then soreness or reddening of the throat. In respiratory system, it causes cough. Then patient will have chills, fever, ache. Gastric mucosa, it might cause nausea for the patient. Sometimes spleen enlargement and abdominal pain. They will have lymph node swelling, typically of the cervical lymph node. Then inflammation of the tonsil, and sometimes the patient will have photophobia as well. These are the some of the common symptoms of infectious mononucleosis. Apart from infectious mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr virus is also attributed to some other diseases like Hodgkin's lymphoma, hepatitis, gastric cancer, nasopharyngeal cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, Burkitt lymphoma, all the other herpes lesion as well, and multiple sclerosis. It is not proven, but it is all said that Epstein-Barr virus is associated with all these lesions. Even if you don't remember all the lesions, you should at least remember the three things. First one, infectious mononucleosis. The other one is Burkitt lymphoma. Then the third one, nasopharyngeal carcinoma. These three are very, very important. Then you have the next virus called as cytomegalovirus. So cytomegalovirus, Most of the people who are infected with the human cytomegalovirus after birth, they have no symptoms. Some develop a syndrome kind of a thing which is similar to infectious mononucleosis or a glandular fever. They will have prolonged fever and mild hepatitis. The infectious cytomegalovirus, it may be shed into the body fluids of any infected person, and it can be found in urine, saliva, blood, tears, semen and breast milk. And that is the reason why cytomegalovirus or the infection caused by it, which is infectious mononucleosis, the lesion is also called as Kissing's disease. So we'll see about Kissing's disease a little later. Another very important feature related to cytomegalovirus is the inclusion body. Even if you do not know anything about the inclusion body, it is fine, but you should know the word owl's eye inclusion body. So cytomegalovirus is will present here in histopathology. You will see an inclusion body which stains dark pink and they resemble the owl's eye. So owl's eye inclusion body is associated with cytomegalovirus. Then we have something called as Kissing's disease. So this Kissing's disease is completely different from Kissing's lesion. So what is this Kissing's disease and Kissing's lesion? So this infectious mononucleosis, which is caused by either EBV or CMV, whichever virus it is, the virus will easily shed in all the body fluids including saliva. So if a person A has contracted the virus and the person is kissing person B, then it is very easy for the person to transmit the virus because the viral load is very heavy in saliva and it is a easy transmission route. And that is why infectious mononucleosis is also called as Kissing's disease. Remember, infectious mononucleosis is a disease. So when the disease spreads by kissing, it is called as Kissing disease. Whereas we have an entirely different thing called Kissing lesion. That is different and that occurs in condition where a patient is having median rhomboid glossitis. So in a normal individual, a dorsum surface of the tongue will be even. Whereas in a patient having median rhomboid glossitis, the central portion will have a small dip. It will be rhomboid in shape. And that is why that developmental abnormality is called as median rhomboid glossitis. And it is very easy for the patient to acquire candidiasis in that particular region. So, constantly when that dorsum surface of the tongue touches the palate, it is very easy to transmit any infection which is there in the dorsum into the palate because the tongue touches the palate, which means the tongue is kissing the palate and it is transmitting the lesion which is in the tongue into the palate. So that is why it is called as Kissing lesion. So Kissing's disease is infectious mononucleosis, whereas Kissing lesion is the candidiasis which occurs in median rhomboid glossitis, which gets transmitted from tongue into the palate. That is called as Kissing lesion. Then we have the next virus, human herpes virus 6. So HHV 6 has two groups, HHV 6A and 6B. 6A is more of a neurovirulent variant and it is found in patients with neuroinflammatory diseases such as multiple sclerosis. Then we have HHV 6B, which causes common childhood illness like exanthema subitum, which is also known as roseola infantum or sixth disease. Then we have HHV 7. So HHV 7 along with HHV 6B, it is responsible for causing an infant lesion, a skin rash called as exanthema subitum. Then apart from that, HHV 7 infection may also lead to other symptoms including acute febrile respiratory disease, fever, rash, vomiting, diarrhea, low lymphocyte count and febrile seizure. It is usually involved or the symptoms will be more worse in patient who are immunocompromised or patient who have a drug, it will lead to development of drug-induced hypersensitivity syndrome in case of immunocompromised patient.